show is, very superficial.
Contrary to what you believe, I actually think you would make a spectacular bachelorette.
Welcome to Captain Bagrat podcast, where I am on a mission with Captain Bagrat to fight boring news in Asia and Australia. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. And as always, we are recording from Downtown Chinatown. And today, I've got Sandy.
Yay! Hi everyone. 농허, 농허.
Oh, what's 농허, 농허?
It means hello in Shanghainese.
Oh, lovely. The show is all about educating different languages in Asia. Shanghai, Shanghainese. So your background's in?
So I'm an Australian-born Chinese. My mother is Shanghainese. My dad is from Hong Kong. So Lei Ho as well.
Oh, Lei Ho. Ni hao is all I know.
Yeah.
Kind of boring, I know. And so there's something that you and I have a lot in common.
That's right.
And that is love me Bachie. We love The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
We talk about it every time I come into the office. We give each other updates. It's
we even
the highlight of my day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I remember watching, is it Matthew Agnew? And I just thought, oh my God, what a hunk.
So I remember when I first watched it and I walked into the office and I told all the girls about it. I said, have you watched The Bachelor, the season? And they're like, oh, not really. And I said, did you know he's an astrophysicist? And this is what he looks like. And everyone started paying attention. I think he's the first Bachelor that's actually intelligent, not that the others weren't, but intelligent in a more conventional way. And it was his well-roundedness that kind of
drew you to the show?
Drew me to the show, but also what made him become so popular. He wasn't just a hunk with muscles. He had a brain and he's very eloquent as well. He had a way with words.
Yes.
And I thought it was a very good pick by Channel 10.
Excellent, because I would walk to work and as you walk downtown Chinatown before The Bachelor, or the Stray Bachelor anyway, started, there's this big banner of him every single day. So I'd be walking and I'd be seeing his face every single day. And I just thought, that is a very attractive young man. I think I'm going to have to watch this year's Bachelor because for the last two, I didn't.
And why was that?
I don't know. I think I probably didn't connect with them. They weren't my type of guys, I suppose.
Why didn't you connect with them? Because they weren't
No, I got into intelligence, I guess, their personality. And also their looks. So the show is, very superficial.
Yeah.
So that's why when I saw Matt, I was like, this is a guy that I would actually like to watch.
But the question I always have in my mind is, these women or these men walk into the show not knowing. A lot of them don't know who's going to be there, who's going to be the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, and they have to stay on the show.
That's right.
For the next 6 months, 3 months to fall in love with this person. But what if you don't hit it off in the first, when you walk on that red carpet? What if you don't like them? You're kind of stuck there, right?
I know. And what if you brought, your favorite thing to them, and can you imagine and say, and you get shot down, it's like, this is actually not working? You haven't really made an impression on me?
Well, actually, speaking of presents on the first meeting, remember on the first episode of The New Bachelorette with Angie, one of the guys, I forgot his name, I'm sorry, but his family owned a meat pie.
Oh, that guy, yes.
Right? Meat pie company. And he brought a meat pie and he was so excited, but he soon realized that she was vegetarian. And he was just like, both of them were just, and it fell flat.
But it did.
Yeah.
But it was so sweet that, he's brought something that's so dear to him, and obviously they don't tell him this kind of information.
Yeah, it was a nice gesture.
It totally was. But I think in last night's episode, she actually went on a date with him. So she does have a keen interest, but from all the discussion and gossip from the boys in the house, they said that Angie may have an issue. She's an ageist. So she's, I think, 28 or 29, and he's 24. or 25, so he's a little bit younger than her. So that might be the only thing that's going to pull her.
That's surprising because my impression of her always on Gogglebox or whatnot was that she's a very open-minded person, and I guess she gives off that impression by being really bubbly and la-di-da. But I think there is more than meets the eye with a lot of these people. You just never know, right?
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is, so Vicky, you've got a man, but why do you keep watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette?
That's a really good question. You know, a lot of people ask me, like, why would you be interested? You're not even single anymore. And I said it's not about that. It's more about I like observing these social behaviors.
And what have you observed from the show?
I mean, first of all, you really question how real everything is, right? And so you have to be careful with that because you don't want to believe everything you watch. But at the same time, it's all you're given. So it's what you really, how you choose to interpret it. And how I choose to interpret all of it is I just kind of take it with a grain of salt, like whatever I'm watching. And I kind of watch it and I think, well, it's amazing how some of these women, the lengths they go to, the lengths these women and men go to for attention.
Yes.
From someone they barely know.
And the attachment as well. The
attachment with very little interaction. And, you know, from day one till the final rose ceremony, at most you get 3-4 dates.
Yes.
And then you're supposed to get some sort of promise ring.
And yet they always say, I felt like on that day we really connected, or that moment we spent together. Do you think maybe because it's such a social experiment and that there's competition, and because of competition, that's really driving you wanting something because you know everybody else wants it?
So there is a bit of that, I think, but based on my read of a lot of these women from The Bachelor, seemed like they really were genuinely into Matt.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart. I think he was a 10 out of 10 for me on all aspects.
Yeah, look, he's definitely a catch. At least he ticks a lot of women's boxes. And for example, Abby Chatfield, she was the runner-up to Chelsea McLeod, and I feel like everyone thought she just wanted to win.
I got that feeling too.
And she
got a lot of bagging out from the social media platforms. And
there was a lot of debate. And look, even I questioned whether or not it was fair because, you know, she was definitely very confident of her sexuality. Yeah. You know, she was like trying.
There's a lot of sexual chemistry between the two.
Yeah, for sure. She wasn't shy about it. And a part of me is like, go girl, you go girl. But the other part of me is like, whoa, you know, I wouldn't do that. So even I learned things about myself through watching the show. Like, why do I react that way? Am I really that conservative? You know, and we're supposed to be championing strong women who are confident about their bodies.
And who know what they want.
Exactly. So why is it that a part of me judges that? Yeah. And that's uncomfortable, I think, for some people and for me too, when I realized that. But in the end, I think most people, based on reading a lot of the social media comments, I think most people think, you know, at least she was being true to herself. That is the most important thing.
That's right.
Yeah. So I don't think she was trying to win the game. I think she genuinely had feelings for him. Yeah. Unless she's a really, really good actress.
Well, they do put those kind of characters up there just for entertainment value. You look at Sophie Monk. She was the Bachelorette, I think.
I watched that season.
Yeah, it was apparently the highest rating season.
It's because she was a celebrity. Yeah. Right? But I was really disappointed by her choice. And a lot of people speculated because he was the rich guy and rich older man, and that's what she always wanted. Look, I don't know if that's true or not. But I think it's always it's almost like the audience always wants the woman to go with her heart. And Sophie Monk apparently went with her head. And look, they didn't work out in the end. But it's their life in the end. I don't know how much say we have over it.
No, and it's really amazing as well because as part of this, I did some research into
yes.
success rates.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's
What are the numbers?
So, as you know, about The Bachelor and Bachelor, the whole franchise started off in the US.
Yes.
And so the US would be the longest running the TV shows. And so they've had 23 seasons of The Bachelor in the US, and it's only 8.7% success rate.
In the US.
In the US. And when I mean success rate, I mean they've stuck together since the show, and they've either married or they've had children. Or children.
Interesting.
And do you know what the Bachelor success rate in Australia is?
No, please indulge me.
No, take a guess.
Like
including Matt, the last one out of 7 seasons.
Like 20%?
Higher.
30.
Higher.
50.
57%.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty good considering
that is really impressive.
I know. So clearly in Australia there's more genuine outlook, and people that the bachelors who go on the show, they actually want to find love, which I think is endearing.
So I think I've watched a couple of seasons of the US Bachelorette and The Bachelor.
Yeah.
I've watched Rachel Lindsay's season. I forgot the other guy's name. Nick Viall season. And it is and I've watched it with my family as well, and we make comments. And imagine watching this with like a Chinese
Does this get
mom.
really uncomfortable?
It
when
does,
they're making
especially
out?
when they make out and it gets real steamy. But the differences that I've noticed is that in the US ones, there's a lot more cattiness. There's a lot. I mean, it exists in the Australian seasons too.
Especially right now with The Bachelor, the boys are getting very catty and jealous.
Definitely, but
I'm impressed.
Even with the last season though, which I didn't fully get to watch because it's not on Australian telly, is Hannah Brown. Hannah Brown season where, she's a Christian woman from the South, I think. The South or anyway, and she was getting hot and heavy with a lot of these men, and she was getting a lot of hate online or judgment. And then the men kind of defended her as well. But I like how it does spark a lot of debates because it makes people think about what their values are or to fight for their own values in these spheres of dating or love or whatnot. It's just really hard to tell what's real or not. But
and it's also very interesting because you and I, we both come from an Asian background, but very Australian, grew up here our lives, and yet there's so little Asian representation on The Bachelor. And I think at the moment there's only one guy. I think he's from a South Asian background for Angie, and in fact there were no representation at all for Matt's episode of The Bachelor. Has there
you're
ever
right.
been any Asian representation on the Australian Bachelor or Bachelorette?
So in the former few seasons ago, there was a half. I think she's half Australian, half Chinese, called Vanessa Sunshine.
What a lovely name. Was she beaming all the time?
Yeah, she was quite an interesting character because she was so unimpressed by The Bachelor. See, I forgot his name, but she was so unimpressed and she wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And she was the only Asian or half Asian, contender on the show that I remember. But since then, none in the last 2 seasons, none in Matt's season, none in Angie's season. And even if there are...
Actually, no, there's one in Angie's season.
Oh, right, the South Asian.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot his name. But
he made that joke where I think the producer...
The brother, he
goes, well, it's definitely not me. And I laughed so hard.
I laughed at that part too. But I remember, right, even when they do put in an Asian person into the show, and I noticed this in the US too, is it's almost like they're there as a token to but they usually get kicked off within the first round.
Is that because, do you think that Asian cultures, to go on a show like this, to be publicly presented in this way, it's a bad rap for the family and a bad rap in general?
I've thought about this. I think there's definitely a bit of pride amongst Asian families and Chinese, from experience, Chinese families in particular. So the question of why isn't there the Bachelor or the Bachelorette in Asia right now? And I thought about this. I really think it's because there's a bit of shame, you know, I'm exposed to everyone, you know, I shouldn't have to, if I'm really that great, I shouldn't have to kind of sell myself on TV.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's an awkward...
It is an awkward situation because apparently the Chinese took on the Bachelor franchise, and I think it only went for 1 year, and they...
See, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. There are not many countries in Asia who've taken it on. So apparently Japan is onto the 2nd season.
Oh.
Yeah, and I watched a little bit of it, and it was just really, really cute. Like, you know how we're exposed to the American and Australian version where there's full-on make-out sessions, there's a lot of talking about feelings and also talking about just more than your usual, something that you would do in a normal relationship. But the Japanese one, the guy and the girls, when they kissed, they just kiss each other on the cheek, and that was it.
Innocent peck.
Yeah, it's adorable and innocent, but at the same time, I'm like, this is if let's say the Bachelor did make out with one of the Bachelorettes on national TV, I don't think the Japanese public would appreciate that kind of flaunting behavior.
I think it's really important to think about cultural context and you know, The Bachelor as a franchise is very successful in the West, but you know, it wouldn't work for every Asian kind of audience, and particularly Japan, where they're traditionally more conservative, you know. And I remember we talked about Terrace House, which I love,
which is about dating, right?
No, actually, it's a show about, initially the first season, my boyfriend introduced me to the show, and he said it's a show about dreams, where young people talk about dreams. But now it's kind of morphed into this dating show, and it's, you know, it's kind of a bit too datey right now, but whenever they start talking about dreams, I'm hooked back in again, because it shouldn't all be about dating, and there's only, 8 people in the house. You have very limited choice. So sometimes when I think they connect, I question if it's just out of loneliness because there's no one else.
And you have to be forced into this environment. And the producer, like, apparently they say it's non-scripted, but in a way, I think the producer or the upper level would say, hey, look, try and make the show a little more entertaining. Try and take someone out, one of your housemates out for a dinner or a snack, just to see maybe there might be a spark.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, even though they say unscripted, I'm sure there's a bit of prodding here and there.
Yeah.
But what I do like about Terrace House is that it's very nuanced, and it's very subtle. Everything's very subtle and understated. And you kind of have to watch carefully to really appreciate all of the little bits and bobs, you know. And
the little comments and the way they look at somebody else, or how they react. It's definitely very different to Big Brother.
It is. Big Brother was like 10, 15 years ago. And it was just... I felt like
it's still going, apparently.
It's still going. Oh my gosh.
Big Brother franchise is still going strong, apparently.
I did not know
in the Philippines, it's big in the Philippines.
See, I just feel like with Big Brother, it's like they have a CCTV. And everywhere. You're just watching the CCTV, you know, whereas with Terrace House, they'll kind of zoom in on your face when you have a particular expression, or I don't know, it's filmed so well. And I love the commentators. I feel like they add so much depth, and they make you think about things you didn't think about.
Yeah.
You know,
because you introduced me to this Terrace House, and so comparing that to Big Brother, comparing that to Bachelor, Bachelorette, I found the Terrace House as a very gentle, thoughtful, and provocative show, and endearing as well.
Yes.
And the type of commentary provided by the I would call them judges, but they're able to make fun of particular situations. However, they're not crass about it, and they do it in a way that it makes you really love the characters in the house.
Definitely.
But sometimes you kind of feel sorry because someone may have overreacted, but that's being human. It's about the interaction of people sharing a house, which normally in Japan they don't share houses together, right?
Yes, exactly.
So this is a social experiment that is kind of breaking a new barrier for the Japanese culture.
Exactly. And, some of the comments made between the women this season in Tokyo, the Tokyo edition.
The girl fight.
The girl fight between Haruka and Risako.
Oh, wow.
And Haruka, after the fight, said, I don't think I would be friends with this person had I not moved into Terrace House, which is true. Like, a lot of these people wouldn't have met if they didn't move into Terrace House. But it is a huge social experiment. And
it's a fun experiment.
It's so fun. And, you've got musicians, artists, models. It's usually these people. I've watched previous seasons. And
the creatives.
And my boyfriend and I used to say, or he used to say as well, they're too good looking. It's going to be so boring. You got to throw someone more interesting into the mix. But I find that, with this season, I really like the young kid as well. He's 20 years old.
That's right. The shy one who goes red whenever he talks to a girl.
At first, I thought it was just a ruse. When he said, I'm really shy, and I thought it was just an act. But over time, it's very endearing because it's so genuine. And I like that in Japan, there's a very nurturing kind of culture. It seems all the women are helping him, figure out who he is in a very nurturing way, not in a critical way. And I think the commentators, they do that too. And that's why we love them. They're like, we noticed this about this person. If only they did it this way.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say they shouldn't have done it this way.
Yeah.
Which I really like. It's more constructive than critical.
Definitely more constructive and trying to bring harmony to a house as opposed to, if you compare it to Big Brother or The Bachelor, there's going to be catfights and you have, a derogatory terms thrown at each other or some sort of drama like OTT Kardashian style.
I feel like Australian audiences or the audiences feed on the drama, whereas in Japan there is a sense that they genuinely, like you said, want to create a sense of harmony in the house. But they're also very open-minded where if the two girls don't get along, they don't get along. Like, that's fine.
They like the same guy. They talk about it. They do have a fight. But then I was so impressed that the next day, both of them had time away from each other, talked about the problems, and then they actually wanted to confront one another and say, hey, I apologize for the way I behaved. So reconciliation is really important.
It is. However, I have noticed comments here and there, and it's something that I think about too, is are they reconciling for the audiences or is it real reconciliation they're seeking? Because when Risako reached out to Haruka the next day, Haruka's like, you don't need to make amends with me. Like, we don't need to be friends. And I thought, whoa.
She's so full on. She speaks her mind.
Yeah, and...
Risako, she's the parkour. She's amazing.
She's a yoga teacher and a parkour artist. And she's 21.
I love her.
And now she's dating the oldest guy in the house.
Kenny,
exactly.
The one that he looks so aloof all the time. It's like, what's going on?
I actually don't like Kenny because I feel like he lacks, and I think I've been influenced by the commentators and that he lacks that depth. Maybe it's because all the other characters have such depth that he doesn't really compare. Maybe
not yet, because how many episodes is it usually for Terrace House? It's about 30 or 40 episodes? Or
I can go on for even longer, but it hasn't even ended yet. I'm on the latest episode, which is episode 9. I'm waiting for 19.
19. Oh, wow. That many. I think I only got to like episode 11
Yeah.
so far. Oh,
and you binge
watched. I got a lot to watch. Yeah, I try to binge watch as much as I could.
It's so addictive.
And it was so, like, I love the Japanese language. Like, it's so... Yeah.
So ne.
Yes, whereas I find sometimes with the Chinese, you and I, we've grown up from Chinese family. It's like people are screaming at each other, but when they're actually saying hello, how's your day?
Especially Shanghainese. It's like you're arguing all the time.
Exactly.
But in Japan, everything is so adorable and endearing, you know?
It's so
Polite.
gentle. Yeah.
So gentle.
Gentle. Whereas the Chinese is like, you're having a walk, you're speaking in a way like, as if you're having a walk, but really just having a conversation about, hey, how's your day? Want to eat some chips?
And I actually think, so the commentators said that they have a global audience now.
They do.
And I think it's great that it's
on Netflix, that's why.
Yeah, their gentleness has permeated, globally. And that's a good thing because, Terrace House has really made me think about it more deeply about social problems that I don't normally think about. For example, when Shohei, you know how they had that conversation during the tempura episode?
Oh, the tempura episode.
The tempura episode where Shohei said, I don't have one life goal, I have many. And then all the other people weighed in. I thought that was really interesting because you don't have to agree on everything, to be friends. You don't have to agree on everything. And
I loved how he used the analogy of tempura. It's like, well, if you had tempura all the time, you'll get sick of it, right? So that's like sticking to one thing.
Exactly. And then the commentators totally shut him down. And I was like, well, actually, I don't think it was a horrible analogy. And actually, it makes you realize the power of the commentators, like the influence they have on the audience. It really colored my view.
And I think there's nothing wrong with his view of being an expert in multiple things or going through life.
No.
Because at the moment, we're going through a generation where we're going to change careers.
Yeah.
What, is it 11 times now?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's like having a bowl of different types of tempura.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, and I think it was all of them against him. And he must have felt so alone in that because, and I think the way the world's going, he's onto something there.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like, the other one, she traveled to France, I believe, the illustrator, but he went to Taiwan and so they are worldly people. So perhaps he just likes to be a multitasker.
Yeah, and someone who's good at a bit of everything. And the illustrator girl, Kaori, she later, and I think you watched the episode already, she talks about, she's actually the only one who doesn't talk about dating very much.
Yeah.
She talks about her dreams of being an illustrator and, she got really emotional over it, which baffled me. I was like, what is she getting so emotional about? Turns out she got all these job offers, but she felt like she didn't deserve them. And it made me realize, Japanese people are so modest and humble to the point where they're crying because they're getting too much attention.
Yeah.
And feel so undeserving. Almost like she has, confidence issues.
Yeah, it's almost like, I think a lot of Asian cultures have that. It's like, it's not a confidence issue. It has something to do with, I'm not sure how to express it. It's like...
It's self-doubt.
Self-doubt?
You feel like a bit of a fraud sometimes, and I don't know. I was just really surprised when I saw that, and I thought it was very humbling watching that because it makes me realize a lot of people we know are a bit overconfident about their abilities. They don't even have multiple job offers and, no way would they act the way she's acting.
Yeah. Maybe she's just like a quiet achiever.
She is definitely a quiet achiever. Yeah. And I really like her. But she was criticized later on in the episodes for being a bit too quiet. So you'll be damned if you do, you'll be damned if you don't. So either way you lose.
Are there any other Asian dating shows that are similar or if not as crazy?
So in the past, when I lived in China, I was much more exposed to these dating shows because it was all over TV. So I watched 非诚勿扰, which also shows on SBS and here in Australia. And there's great translation.
Which is If You Are the One.
That's right. And 百里挑一, which is pick one out of 100. And If You Are the One gained a lot of popularity, because 30 women, one man, or the other, vice versa.
That's right.
But because it lost the trust of its viewers, because the rumors went around that all the women were paid to be there, and they purposely chose each other to win the trip, just for a free trip, right?
To the Greek islands, isn't it?
Exactly. So
That'd be
because
nice.
of that, you think, well, what I'm watching isn't genuine, might as well not watch it. And a lot of the people there were just fame hungry. So,
and some of the wonderful things that they talk, it's one of those shows where you get completely shot down. So you can say whatever's on your mind. It can be as brutal as you want, and
you'll get shot down.
You get completely shot down.
The term, the really famous term, I'd rather
be on the back of
I'd rather be starving in a BMW.
I'd rather be starving than to be on the back of a motorbike. Or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd be starving in a BMW than to be back of a motorbike.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That term was made famous through that show, and it's important because it kind of gives you an insight into the values of a lot of women that go on the show. You know, I'm not saying all of them have this kind of
maybe just
aspiration.
Yeah.
But a lot of women in China particularly, and look, I've lived in China for 5 years and I'm from Shanghai, lived in Beijing.
You know what they say about Shanghai girls?
Exactly.
Very superficial.
We cop a lot of unfair, you know.
And you're nothing like that. You're very genuine.
Thank you. But the common thing is that is said about a lot of Chinese women nowadays in the West, or even in China, to be honest, is that they're all looking for a man with a house and a car. And without those, you're not even, you don't even bother.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of competition, I guess, over there.
A lot of competition, a lot of pressure for the men, and the women. That's why plastic surgery is so common now, because women feel like there's a certain type of woman that these men like.
Yeah, which is model of the Koreans.
Exactly.
They've made plastic surgery a phenomenon, really.
Definitely. And, just because you touched on that, I think it was yesterday or the day before that the news broke of a major K-pop star hanging herself in her apartment. And she had, 6 million followers on Instagram. She advocated for a lot of, female social rights, like going braless.
That's pretty brave for a Korean.
It is.
culture.
And she kissed another female on the lips and copped a lot of crap for that too.
Yeah.
And she probably got cyberbullied all the time. And people don't realize the effect that has on the psyche.
Yeah.
And she took her own life, and she's one of many, many K-pop stars that have done that. And, in Korea, having eyelid surgery or any sort of surgery is very common.
Yeah.
It's like when you turn 16, you get a new nose for your birthday or something.
A new nose for your birthday?
Yeah.
Where's my nose? I'm not Korean.
Exactly.
Yes, that's why.
It's just so common, and it's scary how normalized it is.
Yeah.
When you walk on the streets of Seoul, every street there'll be a cosmetic, clinic.
Wasn't it? I don't know. What was it? The South Korean Miss South Korea competition. I think they had this competition where all the girls end up looking exactly the same, and so they weren't able to choose a winner or something along those lines.
Well, ironically, for those beauty pageants, you're not supposed to have surgery on your face. And ironically, most of the women have. And I personally know of a case of someone who joined who got surgery.
Yeah.
Very, very subtle, but that still counts.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, but, it's each to their own, I guess. And I've asked a lot of males about how they feel about females or their girlfriends getting surgery, and a lot of them are quite nonchalant about it, like I guess if that makes them feel better. But I'm like, my personal view is, wouldn't you see that as someone who doesn't have enough confidence?
I've known a few girls who've had plastic surgery, and it might resound with that, but then after they had the surgery, they became more confident.
Yes.
It was something that was lacking in their life. They felt like they weren't being a woman, which is, maybe having breasts. So, this is only from one example because, I've spoken to her quite a bit. And she was so happy when she got it. She goes, I feel so confident now. And she felt like a woman.
Yeah. That's a good point, I guess. I never thought of it that way. And I just think it because after one of someone I know went to Korea, got surgery, and then came back and said, oh, after I got it, I felt great, but then I saw more problems. And there's this kind of addiction.
That's right, to be perfect.
Yes, because they're like, oh, suddenly they see all these flaws and like, I can just fix that.
I could just go to a doctor and have him cut it out.
Yeah.
Or liposuck my stomach out.
Exactly. And I think that's the more dangerous part. I think I don't judge people for wanting to enhance their natural assets, but I think it's the addiction part and just thinking, just, throwing money at a problem or thinking that looks at everything,
Yeah, but then, for somebody who, goes and get plastic surgery and then they get reinforcement from other women and men go, oh, wow, you look gorgeous now. That kind of keeps the wheel turning. Yeah, exactly.
The problem, which is, I'm only loved if I look a certain way.
Yeah.
So you might end up more lonely after. I'm not saying everyone, but, I think I would have that fear. Oh, I'll suddenly get all this validation post-surgery. But what about before I got surgery?
Yeah.
Who was I then? That's the real me.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to wrap it up by saying, I reckon if you ever become single again, I reckon you make a great bachelorette for Australia. And I think it's about time that they probably had some Asian representation with a bit of Aussie background as well.
Madam Chen, I actually think, contrary to what you believe, I actually think you would make a spectacular bachelorette, more so than me, because not only are you the perfect fusion of Australian and Chinese.
I sound like a food. Like a dish you want to eat.
Delicious spring roll.
Filled with beef.
Yes, yes, and a bit of cheese.
And maybe some cracked pepper and some zest.
Yes. And the reason why I say that is because, you've got both cultures down pat, but, you're such a strong, independent woman. And, a lot of men should not be intimidated by that.
Oh, but they do. They get very intimidated.
But I actually think you'd make a solid bachelorette. I mean it, not just because you said that to me. I mean it.
I think I'd probably make a few of them cry. They'd probably walk out.
And that would make for great entertainment value, don't you think? Channel 10 would love you.
Oh, well,
that's it.
Let's put that on hold. I think you've had too much of the virgin lychee mojitos.
They were too delicious, seriously. The best lychee mojito since Beijing.
Since Beijing days.
Yeah.
Oh, and didn't we have some really good times there?
We did. 2 years worth of fun together.
But that's for another time. So on that note, thank you so much for being here for your time.
It was a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad we had this lovely Bachie session.
Yes, and happy to continue on more of this lovey stuff in the near future.
Why not? We can do episodes about our romantic adventures.
Yes, exactly. I'm looking forward to it, Madam Chen.
Same here. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
Bagrat out. Hey, thanks for listening to this week's podcast. For the latest updates and posts, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love it as much as Captain Bagrat and I do, please support us on Patreon, where we hope that our dream of having our own TV show will become a reality one day. So then we can continue to fight boring news on everything, anything, and nothing with an Asian twist. Thanks for your support. Bagrat out. Solid.